Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk about histrionic behavior of thinking a relationship, like a romantic relationship, is closer, is deeper than it is. Now, what I have seen in my life, I would say that it has a little bit of a narcissistic blend to it. That's why I say narcissistic histrionic blend, but let's focus on the more of the histrionic behavior. Okay, so have you ever known somebody, let's say a woman, who's in a relationship and she's not being lied to? Now, being lied to about what kind of relationship is a totally different thing. But she's being told the truth, and basically she's in a relationship with a man, and he sees it more as friends with benefits. She, however, sees it as though they're engaged to be married at some point, or they're working on that, and soon they'll be engaged. And he's let her know that no, that is not the situation. She doesn't hear that. She believes she's engaged or about to be engaged. All right. Now her behavior is that one of the behaviors is that she will say it's a Friday night or Saturday night, and one of those, and she thinks that that's the time because he works during the week, and he's let her know that during the week he doesn't want to see her because he has to get up early or something like that. And so they would date on the weekend. Well, if he doesn't, maybe he wants to be with his friends or whatever, because he doesn't see it as that kind of relationship she sees. And he's, like I said, let her know. But she thinks that's when it's their time, Friday, the weekend, from Friday when he gets off of work until sometime Sunday lunch or so. That's their time together. No matter what he says, she still believes it. Now you would think he should say, goodbye, it's over with, that you're not understanding it. But he doesn't. He is just as manipulative, and he keeps her in his life, but he controls her. Okay, and she goes along with it, but she does things like goes by his house to see if he's has a woman there, a different woman. Whose car is there? Does she know them? Or she invites herself over, or she just shows up. When, because she still sees that relationship is that close when it's not. Okay, so in a way she takes a flight of fantasy with all this, and she internally, she thinks that, like I said, that everything is good. It's just, well, maybe, it was right. He doesn't have a woman over there. Maybe, and it was just her. But she still sees it as that they have a close relationship. Okay, now there's another way this happens. Do you know somebody like that? Or had known somebody like that? But there's another way they do it too. Say they are actually married couple. And what she will tell, this kind of histrionic behavior is that her relationship with her husband, and this is a different one, relationship with her husband is that it's the best relationship ever. It's always the best with this type, this one. They get along great. They are wonderful together. They do everything right together. They are in sync, and they never have any issues. It's just everything's the best. And she acts like that also with her friends, her family members sometimes, but it's always the best. And that is one of the behaviors they have, that they think that it's the best, and they think, like I said earlier, that relationships are closer, and made a video about that, like friends. They think these are their friends when the person is just an acquaintance. Now you can read some of this in the DSM. I have a DSM-IV text revision. I have the citation in the description below this video on YouTube, and I see it. I see how it describes them. I have seen it. I've been doing videos on this for, I don't know, these different types of behaviors for probably on one of my channels that I started off doing this was I guess four and a half years, maybe 5 now. I need to check that. I think it's going to be 5 in April, actually. Okay, and these could be added other behaviors too. Some might say it's borderline. it's more like the borderline personality disorder behaviors. I'm not diagnosing anybody. They might, well, let me move on here. They, really what I have seen is that they don't, it's more of a game to them, like the woman, the type that would stalk, the way I see it, go by her boyfriend's house, the one who's told her that we're not boyfriend, girlfriend. I see that as stalking. And I know as a teenager, some people would do that. They drive by the person they're interested in. Maybe they'd see him or something, I don't know. I just see it as stalking myself. Not the, I guess stalking is, a continuum or spectrum too. Some, it's not all that bad and some is really bad. I've been stalked, so yeah, no, I don't want to misuse the term, but perhaps. But I think really they, what I've seen is it's more, like a control thing all around. And I don't think that they're really good at having real relationships, because so much about them, what I've seen, my opinion, I could be wrong, is that they just don't really get hooked on anybody. It's all about them and what they want and how they want it and the way they see it. And it's more like a control game, some form of control. So they never really get all that into it. And what they will tell people, sometimes they'll make it sound, like I said, like it's the best thing in the world, best relationship. They're wonderful with one another. And sometimes they'll play like a victim, that when they're not the victim. Now, some people are victims in relationships, you betcha. But they play the victim when they are not the victim at all. Now, it could be like that relationship, the first one, where both people were using one another. Okay. Yeah, they'll control the other person. And, the person, the guy with the friends with benefits mentality, that's a kind of a control game. If the other person isn't agreeing to it or has stated they don't see it that way, really, somebody needs to cut the cord. But I think, and what I remember reading from that is that the histrionic one will become very, in a way, dependent on the other person. And, I mean, that kind of mixture, someone who's more narcissistic and then somebody histrionic, and blend this way, one of them is this one and one of them is the other one. That seems like terrible. It would be a terrible combination relationships. But I'm sure it happens. Okay, but yeah, and what I also remember, I had written some notes, and basically is that they, I had looked up in the DSM and wrote some notes also, but this is my own little thing, but is that they're the type, to me, that when I was saying that about the borderline, I think some people see it as a characteristic of borderline is that they discard so easily, or narcissism too. They just said, okay, enough is enough, that, and I want to move on to somebody else. Next, it's a thrill for them. They're very, like I have said in videos, they dress very provocative, suggestive. They're also loud and obnoxious. That's what I've seen. And the way I see it is they kind of like, they want to reel different people in. So they might move from relationship to relationship just to kind of prove to themselves that they've still got it, especially if they're older. They can still reel, in a partner. And then whenever they get tired of that, they just discard them and go to the next one. And lather, rinse, repeat. Okay, and it doesn't really bother them. I don't think they get very emotionally attached in relationships, but with anybody. It's all about this thrill of the hunt, this thrill all around. Okay, and how many of you, to kind of move on here, how many of you have ever heard stories? I mean, I'm sure many of us have. I know I've seen on TV, about, or just heard people actually say that their friends, once they get married, they don't want to have that friend and relate, to be friends with their friend anymore once they get married. And some people think it's, if they even hear that it's because you're single and I'm not. But sometimes it's because that woman is that type, the type that's very provocative, loves to flirt, loves to try to reel somebody in, and they're afraid this one's going to try to get my husband. And there's good reason for it, because of the way they behave, just all around. Now, when they're both single, maybe they like that about the person, that they're very open, and maybe that, the friend who's not histrionic is, really shy. And so, say they go to a club or something, and the provocative one, people will come to them, and the shy one benefits in some way. But once married, oh no, that's a whole totally different story. I don't want you messing with my marriage, that thing. All right, now men can be histrionic too. I wrote down only from about male histrionics. I got it from the DSM I mentioned. Is I don't know if it actually stated that more like the macho man type, And I wrote down there like to be the center of attention by bragging about their athletic skills or something like that. I've seen some more brag about their ability to afford a home. I think this is more of a blend with narcissistic and histrionic, that they can afford a nice house, that they can afford a nice car, or they have the best family. It's always the best. Now remember, they pick the best wife, think trophy wife. Their kids are wonderful in school. Everything is the best. And they have the best relationship, which good chances are, the chances are that no, they don't, because they're the ones who have to be that center of attention, and nobody else can. And the person in the relationship and the children, they don't react positively to that everything has to be about them. They might at first, or at some point, hopefully they get over it. When they become adults and stuff, the children, they get past that. But okay. And like I said, I've been doing a lot of doing a lot of notes and everything, and I need to go through them and do longer videos just to get through them. And some of these, the notes, I just started doing it from the DSM and doing a refresher course for myself. But the other ones that are old, they are old. Some of, I don't know, it could be over a year or so, maybe two, that I never got to these kinds of videos. They're more of my experiences, what I've seen myself. But in this, I have seen these, like I said, seen these kind of behaviors and all. So I didn't need a refresher course, because I've seen it since my childhood. I think since I was born. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't go back that far. I can't remember past, age 3 or 4. So, how far back do you remember? But, anyway, my car, my seat squeaks. You hear it? Every time I move, I think, oh, how do I do a video without the chair squeaking? And, I don't know if you can hear it, though. Anyway, that was a little flight of my own somewhere else. That happens. But yeah, this is on my mind for more than one reason. I mean, I can go back in my life and see how people people did that, and they set it up in a way that it's like, if like you watch a TV show and everything's wonderful and perfect and all, and it kind of sets a scene like, mine should be like that. Like their relationship is so wonderful, and in a way they're saying your relationship is so bad in comparison. Or it could just be you thinking that. But no, they're bragging about theirs. They're saying theirs is wonderful. But still, it can give you that feeling of, when you're younger, maybe after you've aged quite a bit, you may have seen a lot of relationships, or if you have seen a lot of relationships, even when you're young, you kind of get a picture of what's real, what's reality. Nothing is ever perfect. We know that no person's perfect, no situation's perfect. It's just not. And people who are in good relationships, they can argue, fuss, and fight. I don't know about fighting, not in the way we tend to look at it, but, disagree on things. If that do you really see the other person as perfect? No, you know, we all have our flaws, and we don't always agree with what the other person likes. You know, but I'm not saying that you know, that's what takes over. That's everything's worse. Yeah, that's a totally different story. But we're more realistic. You know, I don't think they're realistic at all, the histrionics. But people who aren't, you know, who really don't have any other kind of thing, I don't like to say, and I do like to say at the same time, normal people, they know, you know, relationships aren't perfect. So they don't put out there that their relationship is perfect. But anyway, okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But if you have some story you care to share, or if you knew somebody who is a teenager or an adult, would drive by the person's house and, you know, the person they're interested in or they think they're in a relationship with, or maybe even they are, how did you see it? You know, I think I've asked this before, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know. But what do you think? Leave a comment below. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Talk to you on another video. Bye.